Hi, everyone. Have you ever wondered why people choose a certain path in life? I do. My name is Linda Sheldon-Fell, and this is a special episode of Mob Boss, True Crime and Real Time. And our guest tonight is the infamous Hollywood mob boss, Ori Spado. Welcome to the show, Ori.
Thank you very much, Linda. My pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. You know, you were willing to come on and answer questions about your life. You've certainly lived a very interesting life. And, you know, most children, when they're 5, never say they want to grow up to be a mob boss, right?
Correct.
So we're going to do a quick recap of your early years because most of these questions are about how did you get from there to where you are today?
It's a very good question.
Yeah. And we're going to go over your time in the mob. We're going to go over your time in prison. We're going to go over time where you are now. And to start out, though, I want to give viewers a bit of a recap of where you started. You were born in small town in upstate New York, a little town called Rome. And you finally quit telling people you were from Rome, New York, because all they heard was Rome. And so you're not from Italy, you're from upstate New York.
Right.
So you started school, you adapted to school fairly quickly, except for one thing, you got into fights a lot while defending kids who couldn't defend themselves. So in a way, your life in the mob kind of began back then. And after fighting the bullies, you often became friends with them, making you the go-to guy at school when other kids were being bullied and needed you to intervene. Yeah. At age 10, while at a movie theater, you took your first drag from a cigarette, a lucky strike, and you started hustling at 13. At 13, you had a paper route, and you started collecting 40 cents per week from the customers. But that's also when you started hanging around a neighborhood store, and you also learned to play poker with older kids. And it was that poker, when you lost, you started hustling your newspaper customers, and that's how you paid your gambling debts. Is that true?
That's true. Well, I went to the customers that paid 5 weeks in advance, and I got $2 from them.
And you also convinced them, when they were lax in their record keeping, you used that to your advantage, right?
Yeah, I did.
And then you learned to play poker with older kids, and that was how you covered your poker losses with the newspaper customers. You then learned to play pool, and you hustled a few dollars every week at the pool hall to supplement your income. And you were thrown out of school so many times you lost count. On a whim, you enlisted in the Army. And from there, you actually had an offer to attend West Point, and you turned it down. And that, to me, was a pivotal point in your life, because you could have taken the high road and been known for some, really stellar things. But instead, you took a different route. And in the end, you ended up in Waikiki in Hawaii in the Army. And your first plan there was to make a move on a brothel. You set up a meeting with the boss of the brothel, and you ended up in a sugarcane field with a gun to your head.
Yes.
You survived. But that was your first real brush with...
First time a gun put to my head, yeah.
But not the last.
Not the last.
Not the last. So, you're willing to tell all. And you have a book coming out called The Accidental Gangster. And it's a memoir about your life, which is pretty darn interesting. And we're going to get to that now, because that's why you're on this show is, what you are revealing is stuff that you are going to be talking about in the book that you have coming out later this year. And the questions that I have are ones that people gave me on Facebook. And so we are going to go through those questions, and you're going to answer them or not. So we're going to start with some basic things about the mob. First off, Ori, what's the difference between gangs and the mob?
Well, gangs look up to the mob. every every other criminal organization looks up to the Italian mafia.
And, and so the gangs are unorganized and the mob is organized crime. Is that a good way to put it?
The mob was organized. There's no organization now.
So,
in my opinion,
back in the day, it had the 5 crime families, Colombo being one of them.
Right.
Is it not that way now?
No, there's still the 5 New York crime families.
But when you say New York,
Genovese, Colombo, Bonanno, and Genovese.
But when you say New York, they're really everywhere.
Yes.
Okay.
There was one in Los Angeles. I don't think it's here anymore. Chicago, of course. Boston. St. Louis. Kansas City. And every city, the Italians were there. Every city we were there at one time.
So is everyone who's in the mob Italian?
Yes.
Or someone who's not Italian become an associate?
No. 100% Italian blood.
Is that right?
From the mother and father.
Okay. And you are?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay. You ended up becoming a fixer in Hollywood. So you went from New York. Your journey takes you from New York to Hawaii, and then you end up in Hollywood. And you became known as the mob boss of Hollywood. But that's what other people call you. You didn't call yourself that.
No, the mob boss. I heard that there are other people be out of nightclubs and things, and people talk and get in conversation, and people want to say, I know so and so, and other people are telling my friends Ori Spado is the mob boss of Hollywood.
How did you get that reputation?
I'm just me. I carry a certain quality or a certain charisma, my voice, my looks. I had a little crew, but basically I was a loner by myself, but I always had my crew backing me up. There was a time at a certain restaurant we held meetings where I met people every Tuesday evening. But I always had 2 guys at the bar in case there was a problem.
Is that right?
Nobody would know those guys were with me.
Okay. Is it still that way now?
Do I do that now?
Yeah.
No.
Because you don't need to?
I don't need to. I don't want to. Made a promise to my children that I would not go back to prison.
Okay. And so we're going to get to prison here in a little bit.
Except for one thing.
Except for what?
If somebody bothers my children, grandchildren, or my loved one, then I'm going to have to do something, and I will do it.
So you still have your boundaries?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you not belong to any one crime family? You said you're a loner.
I'm a loner. I always consider myself a renegade.
Was that from the get-go?
From the get-go.
Why?
I knew all the rules because of all the people I've been around. I knew every rule that there is. I knew the rules of taking the oath. I turned it down twice. Reason being, in my opinion, my family is my children, grandchildren. Once you take that oath, your family is that family. They come first. And another thing was, I had a direct line to almost every boss in the country. Once you get your button, they put you under somebody.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, he's not as smart as you. And you had to do what they tell you to do.
Ah, okay.
Going way back, I knew Frank Costello, Meyer Lansky, Carlo Marcello, Russell Buffalino. These are the old times. That's when it was really something, and it was really organized. And
And so
then my dear friend, Jimmy Cacci, Jimmy Cacci in Los Angeles, we were like brothers. Jimmy was the underboss of Los Angeles. And then Sonny Franchise in New York.
And we're going to get to Sonny in a minute because you've enjoyed a friendship that has spanned more than 40 years.
Yeah.
And he is historic in his own right. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because that is super, super interesting. What is the oath?
The oath is they cut your finger. It's a blood oath. Burn a candle over a saint. Normally takes place in a cellar.
And from that point forward, that family takes priority over your own children and grandchildren. Is that right?
That's right. That family comes first before your real family.
So if you were part of one of those 5 crime families and someone higher up told you you had to whack one of your own flesh and blood, you would do it?
One of my own flesh and blood?
If you were part of one of the 5 crime families.
It has happened. People had to do that.
Wow. Wow. So I can see why you stayed, more or less. Would you call yourself an independent contractor?
No.
What would you call yourself?
What I call myself and what the U.S. attorney says are 2 different things. All right?
Okay. Can you elaborate?
I just call myself me, and it's my way. You know, Sonny always used to tell me I had to tell him everything. So in other words, if Dominic over here was doing something bad, I'm supposed to tell Sonny. I can never do that because in my book, that's a way of informing. All right, I'm telling Sonny, it's like, that's just, my father taught me never snitch on anybody. And that's why I don't snitch on anybody.
And so you're 77 years old.
No.
You're not 77?
No.
How old are you?
74.
74. And so can you honestly say you've never snitched?
Yes.
Okay.
Not on a soul.
And so you have your own motto because you are not in with any one of the 5 crime families. You have your own motto. What is that?
What is my own motto?
You have it in your book.
Well, the other thing is I'm, a little bit educated. I'm a well-read person. There used to be arguments, if I'm in New York, Sonny say, no, you're with me out here, you're with me. And Jimmy out here say, you're with me. And I used to tell them both, I ain't with nobody, you're my friend. And, that's how I handle it with them.
Okay.
However, when I was indicted, it was a Colombo crime family indictment. And I was the only guy in Los Angeles to get arrested, put on Con Air, and brought back to Brooklyn, New York. Just as an FBI agent promised he would do 11 years before that. He kept his word. Scott Garriola.
Do you really think that as part of the mob that you can hide from law enforcement?
No way.
Because
you could hide out for a certain period of time.
But they're going to find you.
They're going to get you.
Sooner or later.
I remember something. The FBI has over 36,000 people. They got special agents, all college educated. They got better equipment. You know, when you see that somebody's wired up and you see on TV they play the wire, that's not how it's done.
Ah,
All my conversations, which was only 11, but if you're on one tape, it's one too many. There was over 500 tapes or CDs on our indictment, 7 hours each, over 3,500 hours. Uh, and it was all with a microphone and the person's watch.
and so with law enforcement, when you go into life in the mob, are you made aware that sooner or later they're going to catch up to you? Or do you go in as a young man believing you can outsmart them?
Most people think they can outsmart them. And that's why in my book, I try to stress to the young, and if I get to one person, I help one person out.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not going to outsmart the FBI. In today's world, the FBI don't have to follow you like they used to follow me. They can stay in their offices and know everything you're doing.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So it's a very different world now. You
It's a very different world.
You also mentioned that the mob is not as organized as it once was. Why is that?
Well, back in the old days, when I was around, you had to become a member. The first thing you had to do was be able to whack somebody. Today, it's not about that. It's about the money.
Okay.
Okay? Informers are walking the streets, coming out of the witness protection program. Some are going back in their neighborhoods in Brooklyn, live in the same neighborhood. So, and nothing's being done to them.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So we're going to get to your time in prison here in a few minutes, but I've got some more questions about being in the mob. Can someone go in the mob, be active, and change their mind and go out of the mob in one piece?
No. You mean once they take that oath?
Yep.
No, you're in for life.
Okay.
All right? You're going to go out dead or in jail.
How much do the mob wives know about what you really do? Because a lot of the money that in your experience has to do with brothels, porn industry, robbery, scams, that kind of thing. What do the wives think you do?
Well, I always had legitimate businesses in addition to what I did. I was always an aggressor in business. For example, I did everything, all the entertainment and exhibits at the Queen Mary for over 15 years in Long Beach, California.
Okay, so legitimate.
Legitimate businesses. On legitimate businesses, you don't have to pay nothing to anybody. On illegal businesses, that's where you got to pay up.
Okay. And so were you married at the time?
I was married to my first wife, my second wife, yeah.
And did they know your illegal businesses?
No.
They didn't. Did they ever learn?
No.
Or is this the first time they're hearing about it?
Probably the first time they're hearing about it.
But
well, I mean, of course, my first wife knows now. My first wife and I are still friends. She's the mother of my children.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're friends.
Yeah, of course.
Never say a bad thing about each other.
Yeah, right, as it should be. What about your second wife?
My second wife I haven't seen in, I can't remember how long it's been. She's from San Francisco. She was younger than I was. Wanted to have children. I didn't want to have children.
Ah.
And I had 3 children. The thought of my children saying that's my stepbrother, my stepsister, right?
Yeah.
In my head, I couldn't do that.
Right. Right. So do you think that your being a mob boss had anything to do with the demises of both marriages?
Say again?
Do you think that being a mob boss had anything to do with your divorces, caused your divorce?
Yes, possibly.
Hmm.
Because I was out at nights, sometimes all nights.
Hmm.
Sometimes I go away for a few days at a time, here and there, not telling them where I went.
Did you ever feel guilty?
Not really.
No?
It was the life. She
It was-
was my wife. You got to remember, I was married at a different time. I believe, I'll never forget my first wife's grandmother. And my first wife her last name was Giuliano. And her cousin was Salvatore Giuliano out of Sicily. But I'll never forget, she and I were visiting her grandmother. And her grandmother is telling me that when back in Sicily, how the woman would walk in front of the man in case there was a bullet.
Is that right?
That's right. So that's how women work. But you got
Okay.
to remember another thing. When the mafia really began, you got to go back to France when it was being invaded. Sicily being invaded by the French and taken over. Italy is probably one of the most invaded countries on earth.
Okay.
And the French soldiers would go in the parks and start raping women who walking their children or pulling them in. So it was to defend the family.
Okay. You do
And
what you
that's
got
how
to
it
do.
actually originated, going way, way back.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
to protect each other.
Protect each
It's
other.
a
Family.
natural instinct, actually. It comes in the blood. I've been that way all my life.
So are government officials part of the mob?
No, but they sometimes infiltrate the mob. And then they actually believe they're in the mob. And
Ah.
sometimes they can go overboard, yes.
So is there a
When you
code?
say government official, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, what the real organized crime is.
Mhm.
You might not like this because you vote for them. The senators, congressmen, and everybody in all three branches of government. That's the real organized crime.
Ah, okay.
All
And
right?
so when you say they're the real organized crime, but they're not associated with the crime families,
No,
the five crime families.
trust me, they've used us.
Okay.
They've
And
used us.
and
They
is
needed us, and they used us.
but they're not truly part of you because
No,
if they're not Italian, for starters, and in the early days they would have to whack someone to be considered a family member, right?
well, look at there's a story about a gentleman. He was a Colombo guy. He was a captain in the Colombo family. And the FBI, he had an agent. He gives the information to the agent, but he get information from the agent. And he want to know where somebody is. And the FBI were telling him where they were. And then he go out and whack that guy because he was looking for him. But they took this guy and put him on an airplane, flew him down south. And if you remember when some guys in the Klan killed a black boy, or some three black kids, it was the Italian guy who got him.
Uh,
They brought him in from New York, flew him in, gave him a gun, and that's how they found out everybody who killed those kids.
wow.
And also, the Ku Klux Klan was definitely afraid of the Italian mafia. The Italians have done a lot for the blacks.
Mm. So, what's the code of Omerta?
What's the what?
The code of Omerta? Omerta? How do you say that?
Omerta.
Omerta.
Omerta. That's the code that you take, the oath when you get your button.
So that is the oath.
That's the oath.
Okay. And what button do you get?
It's just a saying a button. You don't get a button.
Okay.
All right. That's when you become a main member.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And have you ever broken that code?
Never. Breaking the code, there's several rules. You don't go out with another man's wife or girlfriend.
Okay.
Okay. And basically, it's a life that you live following certain rules. All the rules, they're written down for everybody to see nowadays.
Okay. And are the rules the same today as they were years ago?
Yeah, I mean, they're still making people, don't get me wrong. Okay, but it's changed so much because of the drugs. See, Carlo Gambino that everybody knows. Carlo Gambino, I think he went to prison one time for a short period of time, not while he was the boss. But he made a deal that none of his guys would deal drugs. So they basically left him and his family alone. The drugs is destroying everybody. It's big money. But then again, the leaders of the mafia force their people to go into drugs because they make money. They got to pay up. They got to pay up. They got to pay up. And who's making the money but the people on the top? And these guys got to go to drugs and they don't tell anybody they're doing it.
When do you think it began to change to where drugs became the main influencer?
I'm going to say in the 80s, 90s.
Okay.
That's when it started turning. By 2000, it was prevalent. It was against the rules to deal drugs.
Is that right?
And again, okay, I had a boss tell me one time, called me in New York. He said, hey, you know, one guy from another family went to him. He said, I heard Ori was doing this. And he called me in. I said, no, I don't do that. Where are you hearing this stuff? And then he would tell me about another guy here in Los Angeles who, well, he just went back and he gave them $50,000. We know what he does, but we close our eyes. They don't care where the money comes from today.
As long as it's flowing. Okay.
As long as it's money.
Yeah.
There's no more getting your button because you went out and whacked somebody.
So you were charged with what's called RICO.
Correct.
And that is racketeer, influenced, and corrupt organization charges. Yeah. That landed you in the federal prison.
Yes.
In California in 2010.
Was that your New York? The indictment was out of Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. And was that your first time in prison?
Yes. Well, I mean, I did a day here, a day there. You know. Actually, when they came that morning and arrested me, I laughed at them and said, I'll be out by dinner time.
And that didn't happen.
I was 62 months later.
Oh. What was that like? What was it like being in prison? You thought you were going to be home for dinner when it hit you that you weren't going to be home for dinner and you might be in there a while.
Well, I was always a go-to guy. I always had bail bondsmen available. You know, I had better credit with bail bondsmen than with banks. That was more important to me. Okay, so if I gave the word and I said, go bail Tony out, you'll get your money, don't worry, they went. They bailed them out. And the same held for me. And but when I got arrested here in Los Angeles, they brought me to NDC Los Angeles, and my attorney. I had always had a lot of attorneys out here. I never had an attorney in New York except for back in the 70s. And my attorney saying, they're not going to give you bail. You got a warrant for your arrest. I said, a warrant? I said, Danny, I don't have, he said, and Danny took care of, Danny Brookman, my lawyer out here. He took care, if I got caught throwing a cigarette out the car window one time, he got it fixed, okay? I had no warrants, but the FBI, the U.S. attorney said I did, and I wasn't going to sit in Los Angeles and fight it, so I says, extradite me to New York immediately. And within a couple of weeks, I was put on Con Air and brought to Brooklyn. When I got to Brooklyn and went to court, and I went for my first bail hearing, the U.S. attorney gets up and says, Your Honor, we'd like to apologize to Mr. Spado. He didn't have any warrants. That was a mistake. Bullshit. It was not a mistake. They did that intentionally. And they got me back to Brooklyn, but I still got bail, denied bail. I got denied bail 4 times.
And so when you knew you were going to be in federal prison for a length of time, what was that like?
Well, let's take the first day in prison. First time, they take me up. You go through your medical process, and they take me into my unit. When I walked in the unit, there's other guys, black, Spanish, whatever. And walk in, and white guy came to me immediately. You white? I go, yeah. Come with me. Came with me. He said, you're going to bunk over here. I want you to meet so-and-so. So he showed me to the shot caller in NBC Los Angeles of the white people. We got along real good. The next day, he introduced me to the shot callers, the blacks and the Spanish. And I was well respected. I had no problems in prison. And then I got transferred to Brooklyn. It was the same thing. And I was respected. When my first day in prison, it's a mindset. I knew someday it's going to happen. I hoped it wouldn't happen, but I knew the day would come. I believe in the power of positive thinking and what you do with your mind. But when I got in prison, I said, this is it. And that's my mind, and I adapted.
But what about your loved ones back home?
My what?
Your loved ones back home, knowing that you would not be there for Christmas, their birthdays, all the important events in your grandchildren's lives. Did you feel guilty for missing those?
Well, I felt bad of what I'd done to my children, to my family. But on the other hand, I'm the guy who had to pay the price. I knew I'm going to have to pay the piper sooner or later. And it came later.
Fair enough.
All right, it happened. I did my time. When in Brooklyn, there were a lot of Italians in Brooklyn. So, I mean, we ate just like you see on TV. We were together, and I was known as a renegade client to my lawyers there.
Okay. So I want to go to your friendship with Sonny Franzese. He's a legendary underboss of the Colombo crime family.
Yes.
And he is now 102 years old and the oldest living gangsta in the world. And at the time of his release from federal prison in 2017, he was the oldest federal prison in the U.S. You have been personal friends with him for 40 years.
Longer.
Yet he, at one time, had ordered you to be whacked.
Yeah.
But yet you're friends with him. Why?
I'm a man.
What do you mean?
You know, Sonny ended up getting bail in prison. And when we went to court, which was my luckiest day, and the reason I say I was known as a renegade client is I knew that my judge read everything that went in front of him. So I wrote my own motions, even though I knew they'd be denied. But he read them. So we went to court. I was going to use that tape because on that tape was also where Sonny talked how he had to go downtown to a meeting and he voted to whack John Gotti Jr. It was on the same tape. My attorney at that time happened to be friends with John Gotti Jr. and his lawyer. That tape helped him out tremendously with the jury because he beat his case because he said he was out of the organization for 5 years. And remember hearing one juror saying when she came out of the courtroom, when she heard Sonny Franche voted, that's when I knew John Gotti Jr. was no longer part of the family.
But going back to your friendship with him, I mean, you just talked to him a couple of days ago for an hour.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who ordered to have you killed at one point. How do you move past that? I mean, how do you think, okay, he ordered me whacked for whatever reason that didn't happen. And now you're good friends and have been for years. Tell us that story.
You know, there are men and there are men. I'm a man. I have been always. All right. I was pissed off at him because he did it, because he was listening to an informant who was lining up a cocaine deal on 50 kilos of cocaine. Was sitting on my couch when I had the wife, a Jamaican wife of a Jamaican friend of mine, who was transporting cocaine to North Carolina. And this kid made a lot of money. I'm godfather to his daughter. And he had $500,000 on the streets in Brooklyn. So she came to me with the two Mexicans that were owed the money. The informant happened to be sitting on my couch. His name is Guy Furtado. And you show me your tallest, biggest, toughest guys, and I'm going to show you an informant. I don't know why. It just happened. The biggest, toughest guys become informants. But it was a cocaine deal. I was going to try to scam Furtado because he tried to set up 50. And the guys on the streets in Brooklyn knew me. They knew me. I picked up the phone. They had $100,000 ready, which we had picked up that night. The other 400,000 never saw a penny. Furtado was supposed to take care of it. You know who got that money?
Who?
Furtado and the FBI. Now, when I heard that tape in my discovery, I said, this gets me out of the cocaine conspiracy. And then my lawyer says, that puts you in the conspiracy more because I was collecting the money.
So you and Sonny are good friends to this day?
Yeah. I was pissed off at him. He came in when we went for Limine motions, sat across from me, but when he was standing up before he sat down, hey, buddy, I hear you're upset with me. And I looked up at him because I was sitting. I said, I'm not upset with you. I said, I'm a man. I said, the reason I am pissed at you is you used to call me in just to fucking have dinner. I said, you didn't call me in to ask me what the hell this was even about. You accepted other people's words. I said, no. I said, I'm a man. I'm not upset. Look it, thank God I'm alive. There's nobody out there that wants to whack me because I've done nothing wrong to nobody, and I won't. Okay? Until somebody does something wrong to me, then I got to do what I got to do.
So, Ori, what strikes fear in your heart?
What's what?
What strikes fear in your heart? If you're not afraid of Sonny, the underboss of the Colombo crime family, what makes you afraid?
Being homeless.
Hmm.
Being homeless.
Why? Why would that, out of everything that you have lived through, why would that make you afraid?
It wouldn't even make me afraid. I mean, if I did enough homeless, I'd survive. Somehow. I'm a survivor.
Yeah, you
Okay?
certainly are.
And I'm going to come back and I bounce on my feet. I've had a lot of money. I've had no money several times in my life.
Yeah.
And I always bounce back. I made more money legitimately than I did illegally. The money illegally is just what it is. Fast money. And when you got the fast money, it's the fast woman, the fast cars. Just like the saying goes, and fast going.
Do you think that what draws the younger generation in, the fast money, the faster women, the fancy cars, the good clothes? What's the lure to a life of crime?
Well, in today's world, you got the gangs.
Yeah.
These kids, they come from nothing. They got nothing. And not everybody's going to agree with me, but they got to survive. Survival is, we all have to survive in some way, some manner. You, me, my son, everybody in this world. How we do it. If they got to go out and they join the gang and they get it, they know what their rules are. They make money. They end up prison. That's it. Or they end up dead. It's going to happen. It's like an addict. An addict's got how many choices? Sober up or die.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen.
Right. Right. But when they see that, they see the flashy cars, they see the women on each arm, and they see, the gold teeth and things like that, and they want that for themselves. What advice would you give them today?
Don't.
Why?
Because you're not going to beat the law. You're not going to beat the law. They got more techniques to get you, most of which are illegal techniques, but they're going to get you. Do I have a love for the police? I respect policemen.
Mm-hmm.
Even years ago, Sonny even told me, they got a job to do. Let them do their job. I told an officer a detective from the LAPD organized crime, try to get my girl to become an informant against me. I picked him up the phone and I called him. His name was Steve Sewell. I said, Steve, let's get something straight. I'm the bad guy. You're the good guy. You catch me doing something wrong, arrest me. But if you think you're going to take my girlfriend, who's an alcoholic, been in jail more times than I have, I'm going to spin you around in court like you won't believe. And he respected me after that. He did.
So, Ori, you are now out of federal prison. You're a free man. You're 74 years old. Do you miss the old lifestyle?
Don't tell everybody I'm 74. Everyone thinks I'm 60.
60 years old. Do you miss the old lifestyle?
Nah, not really. I enjoy my life actually. I don't have what I used to have, but I live in an apartment in Beverly Hills. I like it. I got 30 rolls of toilet paper, 24 rolls of paper towels, my own bathroom. I live in Beverly Hills. I walk around. I'm known here. Go to a restaurant. Can't do that in prison. You know, the
Well,
first thing people asked me when I left for prison, got out of prison, they asked me for my toilet paper.
okay. What about your cigarettes? Did you get to take them with you?
No, couldn't smoke.
Is that
You can't
right?
smoke in federal prison.
Is that right?
That's right.
You can't sneak them?
Oh, they sneak them. I could tell you a lot of stories on that, but I didn't like them because normally they're Cool or Newport.
So they weren't Lucky Strike.
They weren't Lucky Strikes and they weren't Marlboros.
Gotcha. Well, you know, back in the day, you knew and you hung with the likes of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. Younger generation might not know who these people were, but I know who these people were. This was back in the heyday of Hollywood. And do you miss that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of good friends, older friends, who are all gone. And I do. I miss them every day. Uh,
Well, you did business for them. You took care of things
I
for
took
them.
care of things and I knew, you know,
Yeah.
I always had people around and, you know, everything boiled down to money. And, you know, I was able to go out. I need 15 grand. I need 20 grand. The bookies, whoever, and they give it to me. I paid them back. That's why they gave it to me.
Okay.
Okay. I paid them back. I never had to pay juice. Okay. But, you know, if I had a little crunch time, that don't exist today.
But
Uh,
did you ever think, wow, you know, I'm sitting here having dinner with Frank Sinatra, you
you
know,
know, I
the
couldn't
boy
believe
from
it
New York.
myself. You got to remember, I grew up. Our first TV was an Admiral. First person I ever saw on TV was Kate Smith.
Really?
Yeah. And then, you know, you see Sinatra, Martin, Lewis, and you see them. And I never dreamed the day would come that I would meet them.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's a picture my son has that Dean Martin took with him
Ah,
at La Familia restaurant over here. Uh, but Frank and I used to sit at the bar at Mateo's restaurant in Westwood, smoke, because he couldn't smoke near his wife.
ah.
And so he come to bars, call me, buddy, come on, let's have a cigarette.
And so those were the days.
Those were good days. Hollywood was really good, and it was special back then.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
so do your children know now, prior to right now, watching this live, what you did for a living?
well, my son Anthony has lived with me for a long time, so he knows.
But what about your daughter?
I never wanted this for my children. My children are all legitimate kids doing well independently on their own.
So they never
And
followed in your footsteps.
huh?
They never followed in your
Yeah,
footsteps.
when I was in Florida, in West Palm Beach, my son Ori lived with me, and he'd wake up in the morning and he'd see me and my partner. He'd look at my bedroom, and the whole bed would be full of jewelry. He'd shake his head, take a shower, and go to school. Yeah, they knew.
Ah, okay. So if you could give any words of wisdom to your younger self, what would it be?
Go to college, finish college, find a career that you're happy, you love doing, and do it.
What do you regret about your life?
Nothing.
You don't regret turning down West Point?
Nope.
Do you regret?
Yeah, well, what am I going to do? Live my whole life on regrets?
Yeah,
All right.
fair enough.
People ask me in the morning, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. I woke up today. All right. It's another day for me to fight another battle. And I just keep going.
You're
I
a
stay
survivor.
positive. I stay positive.
Yeah.
And
Do you ever feel guilty for harming the people that you did in years past?
uh no. Why would I feel guilty? They deserved it.
Mm.
If they didn't do anything wrong, it wouldn't have happened.
So they knew
They knew they
the
did wrong.
consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look at you're a married lady.
Hmm.
I mean, and you're out with your husband, and some guy comes up to you and maybe shoves you or slaps you or something. What's your husband going to do?
Oh, he's going to protect me.
That's right, and that's what I do.
Okay. Are you religious?
I pray all the time.
What do you pray for?
Huh?
What do you pray for?
I just pray for everybody to be happy, have a roof over their head, and have food. There's a lot of things in this country that should not be. And here in Los Angeles, as you probably know, we got the biggest homeless population anywhere. And that should not be.
Yeah, I
That should
agree.
not be.
I absolutely agree. What do you want viewers to take away from tonight's show? What do you want them to know about you?
Well, that I'm really a good guy. If I'm your friend, I'm your friend.
Mm.
And you got a good friend. I don't regret, maybe the biggest regret I have is leaving my first wife.
Ah,
All right, because she was a good woman. She is a good woman.
why did you leave her?
Because I was stupid. I was stupid. I had to go out with every girl that had a skirt on. Okay, and I did.
And she was a one-man woman.
Yep. And damn good woman.
Why did you never reconcile with her?
There comes a certain period of time that, that you just can't do it.
Yeah. Did she
you
forgive you?
Certainly, you both know it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But, I pick up the phone, I call her all the time. We talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
And I'm a
Anything
gentleman.
else?
I'm a gentleman, too.
You're a
First
gentleman.
and foremost, I'm a gentleman.
You could have been an officer, but you're a gentleman.
Yeah.
All righty, Ori. Was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it? In reality, no. But it's my life. I own it. It's the way I lived it. Would I do it again? Probably. I don't know.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
And thank you for sitting with me and sharing your heart. And I appreciate you being transparent and authentic with our viewers and answering all the questions. Any questions for me? Any final thoughts you want to say to the viewers?
Well, if there's any viewers out there that are thinking about a life of crime, I suggest you rethink. And what you see on television is just that there. It's all theatrical.
Is that right?
It's not real.
So it doesn't resemble true crime at all.
Certain things, like The Godfather, was taken from different families. Little here, little there.
Okay.
Great job. Goodfellas, written by a dear friend of mine, Nick
Uh-huh.
Pileggi, who will be an executive producer on my TV show. He wrote Goodfellas, Casino. Uh, his movies are good. But
So,
you got to remember, when something goes from a book to a movie, it's not going to be the same.
right. And so, to some degree, those movies were bits and pieces of authenticity woven into a story for the benefit of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.